Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now, this is a very sensitive topic, and if you are a fan of mine, okay, you will understand that I don't shy away from sensitive topic. Why? Because I genuinely believe that momentarily that we have the freedom of speech, we should use it before it's taken away from us. And I will give you guys some example of why it's being taken away from us. And so, with that being said, I want to dive into this hoax that's been going on in Australia lately. But not just Australia, it's also all over you know, all over the places that they reside, okay? Because they need sympathy from us. They're being so oppressed in the world that they need our sympathy and they need the world to know that they are being attacked everywhere and anywhere. And so, with that being said, let's go ahead and watch this video of this brother over here, Smile to Jannah. I really love his channel, by the way. He pretty much debunks a lot of the nonsense that's out there. And so if you want to go ahead and go check him out, please go ahead and check him out. He does a very great job when it comes to journalism, especially. But let's get it.
Heard of a story that broke in Australia earlier this year, I think it was this year or last year, in which they claimed that there was a caravan laden with explosives, inside which there was a list of synagogues and threatening anti-Semitic messages. A couple of days ago, it turns out that that was a hoax. Very few of you will be surprised, but the cherry on the cake was the police knew this. Maybe the Zionists required some extra time so they could weaponize it to justify the crimes that they are doing. If that's not all, the article goes on to say that this group that had orchestrated this hoax had done numerous other hoaxes in Australia as well. So a lot of things that you probably had heard and seen.
It's a pattern. It's a pattern.
And were forced to condemn. And if they were actual attacks, of course you should condemn them. But I think after what I'm going to tell you, we need to take things with a pinch of salt.
And so before I continue, right, in my previous video, if you saw the intro, this is one thing that I said. And I genuinely believe that if people take this to heart, the world will be a better place. Here's what I said. Do not let the hatred of somebody make you unjust to them. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter if they're black, white. It doesn't matter what their religion is. It doesn't matter what their gender is. Do not let your hatred of them make you unjust because you become worse than they are. Let's continue the video.
Not react straight away. Here you guys can see on the screen a NAZI salute was done. People naturally were concerned, but it later turns out that this individual was indeed a Zionist and was just trying to stage something just so she could get some sympathy for her people. Number 2, here was a swastika that was painted in New York by, it turned out, the guy who owns the house. Yes, another Zionist. And here you saw it being done here in the UK, in Glasgow. Again, a guy did it to his own home, claiming that it was a hate attack. Next, we move on to a personal favorite of mine, if we are allowed to have favorites, because all of them are just so whack.
And before I continue, I just want to say something, okay? One thing that I want to say is them doing this does not make their living condition better. In fact, it makes it even worse. Because you got to understand that, yes, there are actual Jewish people out there who are going through some hard time. Why? Because there's a lot of people out there who are spreading misinformation, who are spreading hatred and bigotry just to throw as much attack as they possibly can toward the Jewish people. I can acknowledge that. I understand that. But the fact that they are now, creating hoax, creating, attack against themselves just to gain the sympathy of people is making their situation far worse than it is. I mean, let's be honest. And again, even with the whole I'll have to go ahead and look that one up.
In their own way, this guy claimed to have been stabbed in an anti-Semitic attack. Yes, very serious. But it turned out he stabbed himself.
Oh my
Apparently,
God.
there were no eyewitnesses. There was very little evidence, and the Apple Watch that he was wearing, the police used that data to see when his heart rate spiked, and they used that as evidence also to conclude that he made it up. So those of you with Apple Watches and technology thinking, oh, this is just going to help me, let this be a lesson. Number 4, the Daily Telegraph was doing a documentary in which, I can't make this stuff up, even though they were trying to make it up. They tried to stage an anti-Semitic attack. A live one, yeah?
I seen that video, and all the guy did was wear a hat with the Star of David on it, and then decide to go into a cafe. I think he ordered a cafe, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure. And then walked out. And then a lady came in after, and then she asked, "Do you have a problem with this man?" I'm sorry. What? I mean, the lady didn't even acknowledge him. Nothing. He just walked in, get his coffee, and walked out. And so they want to gain they want to gain people's sympathy so bad, right? That they are willing to go as far as stabbing themselves. And to be quite honest, I'm just gonna say it's not working. Why? Because we are seeing dead Palestinians every single day. We're seeing it. Once you see it, you can't really unsee it. Once you see somebody being burned alive, you can't unsee it. Once you see doctors speaking about how precise children's are being sniped in the head, you can't unhear that. It doesn't matter how much you try to create as much hoax as you possibly can and lie to the public as much as you possibly can. What we are seeing on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, especially X, what we are seeing, we can't unsee it. You have to understand that. And in order for you to regain your, your status back in society and have people respect you, you have to sign a peace deal and stop the war altogether and let the Palestinians live their life in peace. That's the only way. That's it. But rather, what do we see? More and more people is digging into the story. More and more people are looking into the story. And every single time people look into the history of Palestine and the situation that's going on over there, they have no other choice but to sympathize with the Palestinians. That's just by listening to podcasts. They don't even read books nowadays. That's listening to podcasts and seeing little videos. And guess what? That's the information that is reaching us. Imagine the information that they have kept hidden from us for as long as possible. Imagine that. If what we're already seeing is worse, imagine what we don't see. Every single journalist that have made their way into Palestine, they have eliminated. Not all of them, but the majority of them, they have eliminated. Why? Because the information that they know that can make its way back to us here in the United States is going to be so damning that the whole entire United States is going to stand up and say, that's enough. Let's keep going.
Trying to incite the shop owner to elicit a response. Bang! Anti-Semitism. Beautiful footage in 4K. However, the guy did not bite. He did not play ball, and they had to leave the premises with their tail between their legs. And here is a montage of a bunch of other hoaxes that have also taken place. There's just so many, guys, yeah? In fact, the video was delayed because I just kept finding one story after another. Here's one in France. Yes, in France, the guy was caught. Another one in a US cafe in which they said this is the really massive one that we've seen. It's ridiculous. People started panicking. Turns out that that was fake as well. Begs the question, what else have we been told? That's a lie. That's fake. I'll leave that to you guys.
I can name some, but I'm not going to do that because, I'm not going to do that. I have to really create a separate page where I can dive into some of these things without getting banned.
Why would you have the time on your hands to make up attacks if your community is being harmed day in, day out? The reality is, they're not. Anti-Semitism has been weaponized, and I say it again, to justify the crimes that are being done in Palestine. That's number one. Number two is when there are no real enemies, you have to create an enemy and a threat. False flag attacks. We know.
Prime example, ISIS. ISIS. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Okay. If there's no enemy, you have to create one so that way you can justify bombing innocent people. And ISIS is a very great example of that. Let's be honest. Ever since this whole Palestinian and Israel situation has taken off since October 7th, even though it goes far back than that, when have you seen ISIS attack, even though they claim to be Muslim? I'm just saying. I haven't seen them attack. I haven't seen them protecting the Palestinians.
Israel is famous for these. If you don't believe me, Google the Lavon affair. Yes, or Operation Susanna. It was a false flag attack in which Israel was trying to gain sympathy from the Western nations. And why do they feel the need to create a state of unrest and enmity? Because these people understand and realize that people don't hate Jews. They only hate the genocide taking place over there, and they hate the fact that their land is being taken. That's all it is. Yeah. If the land thing is settled, then you'll notice it will be like it was before in Palestine, where Christians, Muslims and Jews lived together in harmony. And lastly, guys, is doing these attacks helping to free the hostages? Is it helping to defend yourself against 4-year-old children? Yes, what you're seeing on the screen is a real thing. This was actually published by them. Yes, it's about a 4-year-old kid. That's Israel for you, ladies and gentlemen. The only way they can justify what's going on is by creating a narrative and blaming Jews. There are many Jews that have a problem with what's going on there. They don't believe that they are allowed to go into that land. There are others that openly criticize Israel, but they are trying to conflate and get this criticism of Israel to anti-Semitism. Even though, ironically, Palestinians are Semites as well, but they get excluded from that definition. So, we're not going to allow you to conflate Judaism with criticism of Israel, colonization, and occupation committed by Israel. The two are very distinct, and there are powers that be that are trying to conflate the two. They are even trying to do this in the law as well. Yes, indeed, heavily trying to reinforce this. But educate yourselves and don't fall into the trap. Let's leave it there, guys. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
So yeah, before I end this video, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of history of Zionism. First of all, Zionism started with Theodor Herzl. Okay, Theodor Herzl. He was somebody. Judaism goes as far back all the way until when? I'll say all the way back to Moses. Theodor Herzl didn't live back then. So who are Zionists? What are Zionists? They're just a bunch of group of people, colonizers, who have embedded themselves into the Jewish religion and have used that to further their goal. Jews, if you study their doctrine, if you study their religion, they believe that they are not allowed to take a single piece of land until the Messiah returns. That's their belief. That's what they believe. According to the Jews as well, the Messiah has not yet returned. So my question is, what the heck are they doing in Palestine? If in their book, they're claiming that they're not allowed to take any land. So what are they doing in Palestine currently? So that's how you know that Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism. Rather, Zionism is a foreign group and entity of group of people who have embedded themselves into the religion of Judaism, and they have hijacked it. And now they're using that to further the goal of, I guess you can say, it's not really, I guess you can say, is they're using Judaism to take over a lot of the land in the Middle East. Like he said, educate yourself. And I promise you, if you study the history, you have no choice but to side with the Palestinian. If you have a heart, if you're not racist and you have a heart, you have no choice but to side with the Palestinian. Because every single time you study the history, it comes back to you saying that the Palestinians are innocent and the Zionists are the ones who are the oppressors. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end it right there. Catch you guys up later.